When having a meal with Owen Fu, Lila Jiang pulled out a pair of wet lace underpants along the thread in his pocket. Before Lila Jiang could speak, Owen Fu raised his eyebrows and looked at her teasingly. Cry. The voice is loose and natural. As soon as he finished speaking, a woman suddenly let out a giggle from the mobile phone placed beside the plate. Immediately after, that burst of laughter echoed throughout the restaurant. Sorry. I just couldn't hold back. Ha ha ha. The woman was smiling and complaining in a coquettish voice. Really crying? Mr. Fu, you are so bad. If you say that, Madam will surely be so angry that she cries. You cheated and you lost. Owen Fu's eyes also lit up with a smile, and his tone was filled with indulgence. All right, all right. Count me as the loser. You can think about how to punish me first and then discuss it when you get to the company. Owen hung up the video call and looked at Lila Jiang, who was stunned. All right, Maisie was just joking. The little girl insisted on making a bet, saying that you definitely won't cry this time. He said this and leaned in to take a closer look at the Lila River. Her eyes were slightly red but no tears fell. He curled his lips and nodded with an approving expression. Well, there's progress. This time she just had red eyes but no tears. Really made her win. Lila Jiang Ding looked at him. She grew up with Owen Fu as childhood sweethearts. As soon as she graduated, Owen Fu couldn't wait to drag her to get their marriage certificate, saying that he was afraid she would be abducted by others. On her wedding day, she was so emotionally agitated that she trembled from crying. Owen Fu held her in his arms, pecking and kissing the tears on her cheek while saying with concern, "Little crying girl, I swear, this is the last time I'll make you shed tears for me." But just 3 years after their marriage, everything changed when Lin Maisie became his secretary. Her tears became a tool for him to flirt with other women. Her pain became the amusing seasoning in his life. In just half a year, 99 pairs of lace underpants with various patterns and styles randomly appeared on him. It was Lin Maisie's provocation towards her, and it was also Owen Fu's silent indulgence of Lin Maisie. Lila Jiang tugged at the corner of her mouth, threw the pair of underpants into the trash can beside her, and looked at him calmly. Owen Fu, let's get divorced. Owen Fu's smile froze for a moment, and then he spoke impatiently. Again? He gave a light snort, then got up and casually swept over her. Sure. When? Her tone was casual, as if she was certain that she was sulking and deliberately provoking her. Lila Jiang's eyes were deathly silent. Now. Owen Fu's eyes immediately turned cold. He got up and walked out directly. Lila Jiang turned around and went back to her room to get the documents, then got into the car and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with him. Before the staff could even start the mediation, Owen Fu had already signed his name in a swift manner. Looking at Lila Jiang, who had lowered her eyes and signed carefully stroke by stroke, he snorted softly. 30 days of cooling off period. Is that enough for you to calm down? Clear your mind and wake up. He turned and walked out 2 steps, then gave the order as usual. Remember to iron my gray suit. I'll wear it for an important social gathering tomorrow night. With such a matter-of-fact tone, it seemed as if the divorce was just a little temper she threw out. The staff members looked at each other in bewilderment, sympathetically gazing at the Lila River. Lila Jiang handed the signed document back to the staff member and said with a smile, "Thank you for your trouble." This was the 99th time she had found lace underpants on him, and it was also the 99th time she had filed for divorce. The first time he mentioned divorce, he was on a business trip overseas. He immediately took a flight for over 10 hours back to China and rushed to her side. The CEO with a net worth of hundreds of billions knelt in front of her, hugging her legs and begging her not to leave. He hurriedly explained that the pair of underpants had nothing to do with him and was just a joke made by Lin Maisie. It was announced on the spot that Lin Maisie would be expelled. The second time he proposed divorce, he stood downstairs of her house all night in the heavy rainstorm. The next day he had a high fever of 40 degrees Celsius, but still refused to leave. It was not until Lila Jiang forgave him out of pity that he finally breathed a sigh of relief and was sent to the hospital in a coma. The third time. The fourth time. As the number of times increased, he seemed convinced that she simply couldn't bear to leave him. Her divorce was merely a bargaining chip to force him to give in. So he became increasingly indifferent, from being nervous and flustered at the beginning, to being casual and perfunctory later on, and now to being impatient. but she no longer wanted to shed tears for him. Owen Fu never went home after leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau. Having filed for divorce 99 times, he has become extremely proficient in Cold War training. They didn't reply to messages or make calls. Life went on as usual, as if they had never quarreled. When she had calmed down and tried to comfort herself, he would casually bring back a bunch of flowers and perfunctorily say, "Don't be angry anymore." The matter was thus casually brought up. She once went hysterical over this and even took medicine for depression, but none of it could shake him in the slightest. If it were in the past, Lila Jiang would surely have been heartbroken. Only when he turned around to comfort her and they made up as before could they feel at ease. This time Lila Jiang found that not only did Owen Fu get used to not coaxing her anymore, but she had also become accustomed to not needing his coaxing. The next day when Owen Fu went home to get his suit, he indeed held a bunch of flowers in his hand. When choosing flowers, I'm becoming less and less attentive. In the past, at least I brought the baby's breath flowers that she liked, but this time I brought the red roses that Lin Maisie liked. Unlike before, this time he also brought Lin Maisie along. Lin Maisie raised her elbow and poked at Owen Fu, winking and gesturing. Owen Fu stepped forward somewhat unwillingly. "All right, this joke was a bit too much. I brought Maisie here to apologize to you." Lin Maisie hurriedly said beside, "Yeah, madam. You're getting a divorce from Mr. Fu. He's been unhappy at the company all day today. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have pulled Mr. Fu to make a bet with me. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. Sorry. Is that okay?" Lin Maisie looked at Lila Jiang with a smile, saying words of apology, but there was only a smile in her eyes without a trace of remorse. The two of them casually elevated the Lila River, as if she were to be overly calculating, it would mean she was stingy. Owen Fu also timely handed the flower to Lila Jiang, his voice perfunctory. "All right, Maisie, I apologize to you. I also brought you some flowers. There should be a limit to your temper. Be good. Go and withdraw your divorce application by yourself tomorrow." From beginning to end, he never took her proposed divorce seriously. Lila Jiang raised her eyes to look at Owen Fu. She didn't take the bouquet from his hand but calmly said, "I hate red roses the most." When she was 18, she accidentally fell into a rose garden and was pricked all over with thorns. Owen Fu, with red eyes, picked out the thorns one by one for her and said he would never send her roses. Owen Fu's expression changed and he also recalled the past. But he didn't want to admit his mistake easily. Frowning, he said, "Isn't it just a bunch of flowers? So calculating?" Lila Jiang didn't pester him any further. He turned around directly and continued to instruct the servant. "All of these are no longer needed. Just throw them away." After she came back from the Civil Affairs Bureau yesterday, she began to pack up her things. Having been with Owen Fu for so long, the gifts he has given her over the years alone have filled up a whole room. Every gift carries the bittersweet memories they have shared together. It also witnessed the unrecognizable affection between them. At this moment they are all piled up aside, becoming a pile of waste. Owen Fu's gaze swept over the mess all over the floor, and in an instant he recognized that all of these were his gifts. His hand holding the bouquet tightened involuntarily, and his voice turned completely cold. "Lila Jiang, I'll give you another chance. Take this bunch of flowers and make up. Do you want to take them?" Lila Jiang's hand, which was hanging by her side, tightened. The sharp pain from her nails brought her to her senses. She calmly refused him. "Not accepted." The two looked into each other's eyes, each brimming with intense emotions. Owen was extremely angry and laughed back. His scarlet eyes coldly looked at her and his tone betrayed his coldness. "Lila River, if I'm still willing to give you a way out now, you'd better go down. Put yourself too high up. When you want to get down, there's no way out. The one who will be embarrassed is yourself." He still firmly believes that when she brings up divorce, she is just venting her anger on him. Lila Jiang was also unable to explain further, her tone flat. "Thank you, Mr. Fu, for giving me this step. But it's too high and I'm afraid of falling, so I can't go down." Owen's pupils constricted suddenly and he sneered, "All right, don't regret it." Having said that, he suddenly smashed the bouquet in his hand hard to the ground. He lifted his foot and stuck to the tender flower, glancing at Lin Maisie. "Come with me to tonight's banquet." Lin Maisie was taken aback for a moment, but then surprise burst into her eyes. She looked at Lila Jiang with pride. Mr. Fu, isn't this not good? Owen Fu Lingxing, what's wrong with that? It's not that I can't do without certain people. Having said that, he went straight upstairs to change his clothes. Owen Fu's figure vanished and Lin Maisie, who was standing in the living room, burst out laughing. Unlike her innocent and harmless demeanor around Owen Fu, the malice on her face was evident at this moment. Lila Jiang, why are you doing this? An unspoiled old flame will only make people feel annoyed when they lose their temper. If a man just tries to coax you once for show and you don't seize the opportunity, it will be hard next time. Lila Jiang looked at her calmly. It seems that you really like making bets with people? Thinking of those mischievous gambling deals, Lin Maisie laughed even more smugly. Yeah, not only me but also Mr. Fu likes it very much. How's that? Is my lace underpants sexy? Lila Jiang gave a low chuckle but her eyes were cold. Lin Maisie, I'll make a bet with you too. I bet that even if Owen Fu and I get divorced, the next person he marries will definitely not be you. Lin Maisie went to great lengths and sent her 99 pairs of lace underpants. She finally got divorced. Of course, she also had a big gift to give to Lin Maisie, which could be regarded as a form of reciprocity. As soon as Lila Jiang finished speaking, the smile on Lin Maisie's face immediately froze. She looked at Lila Jiang viciously, almost grinding her teeth and saying, "Don't worry about me and Mr. Fu anymore. Anyway, you lost." Having said that, her expression changed. Then she suddenly stepped forward, grabbed Lila Jiang's hand and slapped it in her face. The next moment his body felt as if it had broken and he fell to the ground completely. A trace of astonishment flashed in Lila Jiang's eyes. The next moment she indeed heard Owen Fu's urgent voice. "Maisie." Lin Maisie covered her face and looked at Owen Fu with tears in her eyes. "Mr. Fu, I just kindly advised your wife not to be angry with you. But I don't know what wrong thing I said got her off guard. She scolded me for being too meddlesome and slapped me right in the face. She also said that she just wanted to see you kneel down like a dog and begged her to forgive you." Owen Fu's face immediately turned ashen. He helped Lin Maisie up from the ground and said to Lila Jiang, "Lila Jiang, then let's see if I'll still act like a dog this time. Please forgive me." Having said that, he directly picked up Lin Maisie and walked away. Lila Jiang quietly watched his back, and the 3 words, "I didn't" from her mouth vanished without a sound. Forget it. Anyway, he won't believe it. Why explain? Owen Fu hadn't shown up for a whole week. Lila Jiang only saw him in Lin Maisie's WeChat moments. In the first 9 square grid she was smiling brightly, wearing jewelry worth tens of millions given by Owen Fu and a couple's dress that matched him. The caption reads, "I've been spoiled like a little princess by my husband Mr. Fu again. He says he gives me the best of everything all because I'm worth it." Second, Lin Maisie attached several photos of her injured hand back. Lila Jiang recognized at a glance that it was Owen Fu's hand. The accompanying text reads, "I was teased by a rogue. In a fit of rage he knocked out 3 of the other person's teeth and injured his hand. I feel so sorry for my president." And he, who has always been the most annoyed by shopping, spent the whole day with Lin Maisie in a shopping mall owned by the Fu family. He, who never drinks milk tea, accompanied Lin Maisie to queue up at a popular online store for 3 hours, and they shared a cup of milk tea together. He also accompanied Lin Maisie on a business trip abroad. Tired of taking photos, the group photo he took with Lin Maisie couldn't even fit in the 9 square grid of his moments. Lila Jiang stared blankly at the content, and in the end she couldn't sleep until dawn once again. This time she didn't make a fuss, nor did she question Owen Fu. "I just clicked 1-click delete on the photo of myself and Owen Fu stored in my phone." In the blink of an eye, 15 days of the cooling-off period had passed. Lila Jiang has already cut off all her assets in accordance with the divorce agreement. It's just that over the years the Jiang family and the Fu family have been cooperating deeply. Many projects have been jointly developed and the subsequent progress needs to be discussed. Lila Jiang sorted out the documents and called Owen Fu's phone for the first time since her divorce. However, when the call was made, no one answered. She hesitated for a moment and picked up the document directly, heading towards the Fu family. Lin Maisie's desk was right in front of Owen Fu's office, but at the moment it was empty. Lila Jiang didn't think much and walked towards Owen Fu's office, casually opening the door. Suddenly, a panicked noise came from the office. When she walked in, Owen Fu suddenly looked up at her, his voice unusually hoarse. Aren't you all talking about getting a divorce? Why are you still coming to me? Lila Jiang frowned slightly and faintly smelled some strange odors in the air. Without much thought, she walked straight to his desk and placed the document on it. We're getting divorced. We still need to discuss the subsequent progress of these projects jointly developed by the Jiang and Fu families. Before Lila Jiang could finish her words, Owen Fu suddenly let out a low snort and his breathing intensified sharply. He spoke hastily, enough. Get out. His attitude was so strange that Lila Jiang couldn't help but frown. However, before she could figure out the reason, a soft cry suddenly came. Immediately after, a woman with disheveled hair and a flushed face rolled out from under the desk and fell to the feet of the Lila River. She got up from the ground in a somewhat flustered manner, hiding behind Owen Fu as she timidly said, "Sorry, Mr. Fu, my legs are numb." Recalling Owen Fu's abnormal voice and gasping for breath just now, what else did Lila Jiang not understand? She looked at him with a pale face and tears almost rolled down her cheeks in an instant. Owen Fu's face immediately showed a hint of panic and he subconsciously explained, I'm just. Lin Maisie plopped down at the foot of the Lila River, waving her hands in a panic. Madam, don't misunderstand. It's just that you haven't been paying attention to Mr. Fu for a. I was worried that Mr. Fu might feel uncomfortable holding it in, so I helped him get it out. He never touched me. Lila Jiang's complexion was extremely pale. Her hands were trembling wildly, but she still lifted them up, firmly wiping away the tears from her face. There's no need to explain to me. We're going to get divorced soon. It's his freedom to vent his desires on anyone. Owen Fu's expression instantly darkened as he looked at her in disbelief. Lila Jiang's voice was slightly hoarse. I've delivered the documents. Mr. Fu, please remember to take a look after you finish your work. Owen Fu clenched his fist and suddenly sneered, his face filled with eager playfulness. Yeah, why explain to you? Anyway, I'm about to become my ex-wife. You really can't control who I vent my desires with. Looking at Lila Jiang again, his eyes were cold and indifferent. I will review the documents. The project that Jiang and Fu are cooperating on will continue as previously agreed. Later we got divorced and the two families stopped cooperating. Lila Jiang nodded stiffly. Owen Fu pulled Lin Maisie, who was kneeling on the ground, up and held her in his arms. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the pale-faced Lila Jiang. The corners of his lips lifted slightly, and his tone was cold and thin. What? Still not leaving? Want to keep watching? Lila Jiang suddenly came to her senses and, with stiff limbs, turned around and left the suffocating office. I walked all the way to the door and faintly heard Lin Maisie's voice coming from inside. Mr. Fu, Madam seems to be really angry. Why don't you go and comfort her? Anyway, after coaxing so many times, this one won't matter. Owen Fu's cold, impatient voice came. Today they tried to coax me, but tomorrow they bring up divorce to manipulate me. Do I still need to live this life? Lin Maisie weakly persuaded. Aren't you afraid that your wife will really get divorced? Owen Fu's tone was filled with certainty. She loves me so much. How could she really be willing to get a divorce? It's just that they want to force me to lower my head and admit my mistake. I bet you that before the cooling-off period she will definitely go to the Civil Affairs Bureau on her own initiative to withdraw the divorce application. The Lila River at the door smiled with tears streaming down its face. She truly loved him so much so that she lost herself. She loved him so much that he and his lover repeatedly challenged her and trampled on her bottom line, yet she still relented and forgave him time and again. She clung to the beautiful memories of the past, dreaming that everything could go back to the way it was, only to find in the end that it was just a self-deceiving and clumsy performance. Her love for him had long vanished in the provocation of these lace underpants. Owen Fu, this time you're probably going to lose. Lila Jiang left the Fu family in tears and returned home. In the evening, Owen Fu suddenly hurried home. His face was filled with anxiety as he went home and rushed straight to her, his expression cold and fierce. Lila River, where did you take Maisie? Lila Jiang frowned and said, where did she go? What does it have to do with me? Owen Fu directly took out his mobile phone and clicked on the voice message sent to him by Lin Maisie. Lin Maisie's voice carried a hint of crying. Mr. Fu, I'm resigning. My wife told me that if I didn't leave you she wouldn't let me go. Madam, I can't afford to offend her. I have no choice but to leave now. Don't look for me anymore. Owen Fu looked down at Lila Jiang from a height, his eyes cold, pretending not to care in the office but secretly causing trouble for Maisie. I never noticed before that Mrs. Fu was so resourceful and reached out so far that she forced my secretary to resign. Lila Jiang was heartbroken and looked up at him. Owen Fu, are you so stupid that you can't see it? Or has your heart long gone astray and you don't want to realize that this is just a self-directed and self-staged provocation? Owen Fu's eyes were filled with surging emotions. Just as he was about to speak, his phone suddenly rang. After he picked it up, his expression changed immediately. I'll be there right away. After hanging up the phone, he gave Lila Jiang a cold look. If anything happens to Maisie, I won't let you off the hook. Lila Jiang watched his figure stride away and fell onto the sofa in tears. In a trance, I recalled the day when Owen Fu succeeded as the president of the Fu family. There was a female employee who intended to take the position and openly or covertly belittled Lila Jiang. When Owen Fu heard this, he immediately drove the person away. Lila Jiang was worried about the negative impact and advised him not to be too arbitrary. At that time he held her in his arms, smiling and saying that he was hers and his Fu family was also hers. He won't keep any of the employees she doesn't like. Later he placed their group photo in front of his desk. He said that if he missed her, he could see her at first sight and let everyone know that he had been taken for a long time. She remembered that the photo frame containing the group photo was accidentally knocked over and broken in the first year after Lin Maisie joined the company. Now placed on it are the cute ornaments that Lin Maisie bought for him. Owen Fu didn't leave for long. When he came back, he had an extra suitcase in his hand and Lin Maisie was following behind him. Lin Maisie hid behind him, clutching the corner of his clothes, her cheeks swollen high, looking extremely frightened. Owen Fu gave Lila Jiang a cold glance and then said to Lin Maisie, "Go ahead." Lila Jiang Ning frowned and looked at them warily. "What are you going to do?" Owen Fu's eyes were cold. "You beat Maisie like this. She's just returning what you gave her to you." Lin Maisie timidly said, "Madam, if you sent someone to beat me up and threaten me not to leave, just teach me a lesson. I promised Mr. Fu that as long as I'm asked to call back I won't leave. I won't pursue your matter against me either." Lila Jiang looked at Owen Fu in disbelief. "I didn't. I haven't touched her at all." Owen Fu raised his hand directly and waved it. Two bodyguards immediately stepped forward and took control of Lila Jiang, one on the left and the other on the right. Lila Jiang was so angry that her eyes reddened and she struggled desperately. "Owen Fu, are you crazy? I said I didn't. Don't you understand? Let me go quickly." Owen Fu merely pulled Lin Maisie to her side. He looked at the Lila River, his eyes cold. "Since you hit someone back then, you should be prepared to be hit back." Saying that, he lowered his eyes to look at Lin Maisie. "I said I would protect you well. Don't be afraid. Fight." Lin Maisie took a step back and pressed it against his chest, her eyes growing even more timid. "I dare not." Lila Jiang trembled all over. "Owen Fu. How could you?" Owen Fu impatiently made a twisty sound, and then directly grabbed Lin Maisie's hand with one hand and suddenly slapped Lila Jiang's face. Pop. Lila Jiang's face was hit off. Lin Maisie's eyes instantly shone with light, and she pursed her smiling lips as she looked at Owen Fu. Owen Fu raised his eyebrows and said, "Coward, aren't you afraid anymore?" Lin Maisie immediately chuckled sweetly and said, "With Mr. Fu around, I'm not afraid." Immediately after, she raised her hand directly and gave another blow to Lila Jiang's face. Pop. More than 10 consecutive slaps hit Lila Jiang's face, and her fair and tender cheeks were immediately covered with interlaced fingerprints. Lila Jiang's hair was tangled up and her cheek was scratched by Lin Maisie's nails, causing a burning pain. Tears rolled down the swollen and red face, causing even greater pain. It was not until Lin Maisie stopped that she turned to look at Owen Fu and stuck out her tongue in a coquettish manner. Stop it, stop it. My hand hurts." Owen chuckled softly, took her hand and blew on it in the palm. With his eyes lowered as he looked at the Lila River, who had slumped to the ground and was in a sorry state, a trace of reluctance and obscurity flashed in his eyes. But very soon he said coldly again, "Roro, it's fine no matter how you throw a tantrum at me, but you shouldn't vent your anger on others. This is a lesson for you to bully others by taking advantage of your position. This matter is over. From now on you mustn't make things difficult for Maisie anymore." He let go of Lin Maisie and took a step forward, attempting to help Lila Jiang up. Lila Jiang, who had slumped to the ground, was covered in tears but suddenly burst into laughter, trembling all over. That laughter was extremely desolate, making people feel a bit uneasy when they heard it. Owen Fu felt a pang in his heart. Ruruo. Lila Jiang suddenly raised her head, her scarlet eyes looking at him. The next moment she directly slapped his hand away and rushed out towards Lin Maisie with all her might. Lila Jiang almost used all his strength to directly strangle Lin Maisie's neck and pounce on her. Lin Maisie was caught off guard and screamed in terror, "Mr. Fu! Save me!" Lila Jiang had already pinched Lin Maisie's neck with one hand and slapped her face mercilessly with the other. "Pop!" Lila Jiang's voice was cold and filled with rage. "Since you say I did, then I'll show you. Use me to build up my courage? I'll use you to practice my touch. Let me take a look at this shameless skin. Is it thicker than that of an ordinary person?" The rage in the chest was intertwined and the palm was burning hot. Lin Maisie was being choked and beaten. This time she didn't have to pretend. She looked extremely pitiful, sobbing and screaming for help. Lila Jiang moved extremely fast. By the time Owen Fu and his bodyguards realized it, she had already slapped Lin Maisie nearly 20 times. "Ruruo. You're crazy. Let her go quickly." Owen Fu rushed over in a hurry, hugged Lila Jiang and forcibly dragged her away. Lying on the ground, Lin Maisie was beaten by her, with blood gushing from the corner of her mouth and a bruise all over her neck, looking very pitiful. After being pulled away, Lila Jiang used all her strength to free Owen Fu and fell to the ground herself. With her hair loose, she looked like a madman and stubbornly questioned with tears in her eyes. "Feeling heartbroken? Are you going to protect your little secretary again this time? This time, are you going to slap me 20 times or 100 times for her?" Owen Fu stared at her blankly. Lin Maisie lay on the ground, coughing in pain and crying out, "Mr. Fu. Save me." Owen Fu immediately didn't care about Lila Jiang and rushed over quickly, holding Lin Maisie in his arms and leaving. Lin Maisie hugged Owen Fu's neck tightly and turned her head to look at Lila Jiang. Those eyes were filled with malice. Lila Jiang raised her hand to wipe away the tears on her face. Seeing the blood in her palm, she only then realized that her hand had been accidentally cut when she fell to the ground just now. Owen Fu, who had always been the first to notice if she was injured, had long lost sight of her. Lila Jiang got up, rummaged through the medicine box and applied the medicine to herself. When applying the medicine, thinking of Owen Fu's cold and heartless appearance, tears rolled down again and again, washing the ointment off his cheeks. Lila Jiang couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears, hugging herself. Owen Fu carried Lin Maisie away and never returned. In the vast villa she was all alone. Lila Jiang cried for a long time before falling into a daze. Little did she know that in the middle of the night, the bedroom door was suddenly kicked open by someone, and Lila Jiang was instantly awakened. Owen, with a cold expression on his face, rushed to the bedside and looked down at her from a height. In those crimson eyes, intense emotions were surging. Lila Jiang looked into his dangerous eyes and subconsciously moved back, her voice trembling. "Owen Fu, what are you going to do again?" Owen looked at her expressionlessly. Although Maisie was saved by the doctor, she was left with psychological trauma and committed suicide in the hospital ward. Lila Jiang's mouth twitched and her face turned deathly pale in an instant. But soon she felt that Lin Maisie didn't seem like the kind of person who would commit suicide. She couldn't help but recall the look in Lin Maisie's eyes before she left. Owen Fu's tone carried a hint of mockery and playfulness. "You're scared too?" Lila Jiang pinched her palm. "I'm not wrong. It was she who hit me first. If I could do it all over again, I would still do the same." Owen stared at her intently and then suddenly burst into laughter. Laughter echoed through the room in the dead of night, giving Lila Jiang a creepy feeling. The next second, Owen Fu suddenly threw himself onto the bed and pinned her down directly. Lila Jiang struggled in terror. "What are you going to do? Let me go, you let me go." Owen Fu had a dagger on his fingertip at some point. His fierce cold eyes pouted at her. As he played with the dagger, he said slowly, "Although Maisie was discovered in time, she is still being treated in the operating room due to excessive blood loss. She was pushed to commit suicide by you, yet you still say you're right? Lila Jiang, I told you before. She's just a secretary just joking with you. The one I love will always be you. When did you become so indifferent to human life? When did you become so cold-blooded and vicious? Since you refuse to repent. So. Try getting cut by a knife too. He seized her wrist sharply. This slash. It was I who paid you back for her. He clenched the dagger in his hand and slashed hard at her arm. Ah! Lila Jiang let out a sudden scream of pain. However, the man remained indifferent and merely slashed again with great force. With bloodshot eyes he said, "This stab is a punishment for your bullying and arrogance." Blood was gushing everywhere. Lila Jiang was shaking all over in pain and crying out in tears, "Owen Fu! I have never targeted her. Every time it's her who provokes me. I didn't bully her at all. It's always been her acting. Let go of me. Let me go." However, what responded to her was Owen Fu's third stab. This stab is to punish you for being extremely vicious and refusing to repent no matter what. 3 deep wounds were cut one after another on the arm. Blood bloomed on the bed, creating patches of blood flowers. The moment Owen Fu let go, Lila Jiang collapsed onto the bed, losing all her strength. Owen Fu. She stared blankly at Owen Fu. The intense pain and the loss of blood gradually made her consciousness begin to blur. My emotions fluctuated so intensely that even my lower abdomen felt an inexplicable heavy pain. If Owen Fu had no feelings for Lin Maisie at all, how could he have lost control and treated her like this just because she was injured? Tears streamed down her face mechanically, and her complexion grew paler as the blood drained away. Lila Jiang's voice trembled, desperate and confused, muttering, "Why? Why have you become like this?" The scene of Owen Fu panting heavily and Lin Maisie lying on the hospital bed, covered in blood, shook his sanity. At this moment, seeing Lila Jiang's desperate and dazed appearance, he seemed to have finally come to his senses. The dagger in his hand fell off and landed on the ground. He subconsciously took a step towards her, and Lila Jiang's eyes instantly widened in terror. Owen felt a sharp pain in his chest. He rushed over, picked Lila Jiang up from the bed and quickly rushed out. "Go to the hospital. Go to the hospital immediately." It's hard to tell whether it's due to blood loss or Owen Fu's ruthlessness. The Lila River felt cold as if it were submerged by endless ice. She was quickly sent to the operating room, her vision went black and she completely lost consciousness. When she woke up again, she was already in the hospital ward. The area where the arm was cut has been bandaged, but it still hurts very much. As soon as she opened her eyes, she met Owen Fu's gaze. His eyes were bloodshot as if he had stayed by her side all night without sleep. After seeing her wake up, he immediately stood up and looked at her with concern. "Oh, you're awake. Sorry, I was too angry yesterday and lost control of my emotions, which is why I accidentally hurt you. Sorry. He reached out to touch her, but Lila Jiang subconsciously shivered and let out a low cry. "Don't touch me." Owen Fu's movements froze immediately. Lila Jiang's face turned pale as she stared at him intently. Hatred and tears interwove in her eyes. Each word she spoke was slow but firm. "Owen Fu, I really regret knowing you. Lila Jiang. This life. I will never forgive you. Everything you put on me, I will surely return it all." Owen Fu's heart trembled. Her desperate eyes pierced his chest. He was just about to speak when the door was suddenly knocked on and the doctor came in with a stack of reports. "Mr. Fu, the test results of Miss Jiang are out. She's already pregnant." Just then Owen Fu's mobile phone rang suddenly, blocking out the doctor's words. Owen Fu mechanically picked up his mobile phone and answered. Lila Jiang faintly heard Lin Maisie's voice coming from inside. "Mr. Fu, where are you? I woke up but couldn't find you. I was so scared." "I'll be right there." Owen Fu somewhat evaded looking into Lila Jiang's eyes and merely whispered. "This time it was indeed me who passed. Please calm down first. I'll come to see you later." Having said that, he strode out directly. The doctor stared at his back in astonishment, then turned to look at Lila Jiang. "Miss Jiang, you found out you're pregnant. It's only been 4 weeks. Because you were seriously injured this time and your emotions were quite unstable, I'll prescribe some medicine to stabilize the fetus for you." It was only then that Lila Jiang suddenly understood the reason for the heavy pain in her lower abdomen before she lost consciousness. It turned out that it was her child who was wailing. The child she had been looking forward to for so many years. How could it be? It's here at this time. She's doomed to let this child down. Tears rolled down silently and she only felt a piercing pain. Looking in the direction where Owen Fu had left, Lila Jiang said slowly but firmly, "No. I don't want this child. Could you please help me arrange for an abortion? Just today." This was a hospital jointly developed by the Fu and Jiang families. After hearing Lila Jiang's arrangement, the doctor promptly scheduled an operation for her. Lila Jiang had already lost too much blood. Coupled with the abortion surgery, by the time she left the operating room, her face was as pale as paper. She was hospitalized for 3 days, but Owen Fu never showed up even once. It's Lin Maisie who posts several moments every day. Sometimes Owen Fu would feed her soup himself, sometimes he would peel apples for her, and even when she was being spoiled and didn't want to walk, he would personally carry her to the examination room for a checkup. When Lila Jiang heard the nurses chatting and talking about how Miss Lin, who lived upstairs, was spoiled by her boyfriend, her emotions no longer fluctuated. She waited quietly for the day when the cooling-off period would end. It was not until she received a text message prompt on her phone that she changed her clothes directly, went to handle the discharge procedures, and then headed straight for the Civil Affairs Bureau without looking back. It wasn't long before she got 2 thin red books. Lila Jiang went home and carried her suitcase downstairs. Standing at the gate of the villa, looking back at the villa where they had lived for 3 years after their marriage, the little moments between Owen Fu and me seemed to be going through my mind once again. Those beautiful and painful memories have all turned into faded old pictures, vanishing into thin air in her mind, no longer evoking any thoughts of hers. Before getting into the car and leaving, she did 2 things. The first thing was that she took out her mobile phone from her bag and sent a document to Owen Fu's mother. Inside are the evidence of Lin Maisie's underhanded schemes that she has investigated over the past period of time, as well as the information that Lin Maisie was kept by several sponsors when she was in college. She said that she had divorced Owen Fu and Lin Maisie would never be his next wife. Secondly, she placed the consent form for the abortion and the divorce certificate in her bag together on the shoe cabinet, the spot that Owen Fu could spot at first sight when he got home. Thirdly, without hesitation, I clicked to block and delete the contact information of Owen Fu and Lin Maisie and others on my phone. After finishing all this, she got into the car without looking back. "Goodbye, Owen Fu. From now on, our friendship is severed and we are like strangers." Owen Fu is in Lin Maisie's ward at the moment. He was flipping through the documents, but his mind was no longer on them. For 3 consecutive days he didn't go to see the Lila River. It was not only because he wanted Lila Jiang to calm down, but also because of the vague unease in his heart. Lila Jiang's desperate and hateful look made him dare not face it. They grew up together since childhood, and he can be said to be the person who knows the Lila River best. He knew her interests and hobbies, understood what each of her looks meant, and also knew what to do most to soften her heart. So he was very clear that the hateful look in Lila Jiang's eyes when she looked at him was real. She really hates him. The sight of Lila Jiang, covered in blood and unconscious in his arms, made him have nightmares for several consecutive days. Owen Fu looked at his own hand, his mood inexplicably agitated. He had no idea how he had been so impulsive at that time and slashed her with a dagger. Even before, when Lila Jiang accidentally cut her finger, he was so heartbroken that he wished he could take it for her. Was it because Lin Maisie committed suicide? Yes, but not entirely. Another part of the reason was that he couldn't accept that Lila Jiang was always so stubborn and seemed to always go against him. She lost her temper and he was indeed very worried at first. But as I tried to coax her, I found that she was reluctant to leave me at all, and gradually she no longer cared. Even so, they become perfunctory and impatient. He was unwilling to bow his head any longer and even wanted her to bow to him in return. Relying on the fact that she wouldn't leave him, he unscrupulously squandered the affection between them. Some time ago he even listened to Lin Maisie's words and wanted to deliberately spoil her, making Lila Jiang jealous and forcing her to come to him on her own initiative to ask for a reconciliation. But the result did not go in the direction he had expected. These days he had been thinking about all this. It was only in a trance that he suddenly came to his senses. Lila Jiang is the person he vowed to cherish for the rest of his life. They were so in love. He once swore that he would never let her shed a single tear again. When did Lila Jiang start crying every day? They used to be so happy, but everything began to deteriorate from. Owen raised his eyes and looked at Lin Maisie, who was sitting on the hospital bed. His eyes were extremely cold, which made Lin Maisie shudder all over subconsciously. She looked at him carefully. Mr. Fu, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like this? Owen lowered his eyes to look at her and swept across her cheek. Was it really Roro who sent someone to beat you up and make you resign and leave the Fu family? He was so angry at that time that he didn't think much about it. Now the more I think about it, the more I feel something is wrong. Lila Jiang is not the kind of person who would bully others by taking advantage of her position. If she had such a personality, Lin Maisie would have been driven away by Lila Jiang when she secretly stuffed lace underwear into his pocket for the first time. Why wait for half a year before taking action? Lin Maisie's expression froze for a moment, and she immediately felt a bit guilty. But in the next moment she immediately looked at Owen Fu with red eyes. Mr. Fu, of course it's true. Are you suspecting that I'm deceiving you? I was slapped more than 10 times by my wife. She threatened me that if I still dared to stick to you she would never let me off the hook. If all of this is false, then why did I commit suicide? There's only one life. Would I risk my own life? Saying that, she raised her hand with a pale face and showed Owen Fu her hand wrapped in gauze. Owen Fu's expression improved a little when he saw the wound on her wrist. What Lin Maisie said also makes sense. Who would risk their only life? He grudgingly believed her, but his eyes remained cold. All right, from now on, you don't have to act with me and make Roro jealous. I've already had someone buy the house you rented. Consider it as compensation for you. Roro hurt you and learned a lesson. I'll have someone handle your resignation. You don't need to go to the company anymore. Lin Maisie looked at him in disbelief, her face full of disbelief. Mr. Fu, you don't want me anymore? She got out of the hospital bed in a panic and threw herself at Owen Fu. Owen Fu took a step back with a cold expression and looked at her with a hint of disgust. Lin Maisie was pricked by his gaze and immediately burst into tears, saying, Mr. Fu, why? Was it because the lady said something that you did this? If I did something wrong, tell me. I will surely correct it. Please don't kick me away. Owen's eyes were cold and gloomy, and his tone carried a warning. Lin Maisie, you're too greedy. Be careful not to end up with nothing. After Owen Fu finished speaking, he ignored Lin Maisie and left the ward directly, heading straight for Lila Zhang's ward. In the ward, Lin Maisie's expression immediately became extremely distorted. After Owen Fu left, she couldn't hold back any longer and screamed, smashing everything within reach to the ground with all her might. On that face, there was no trace of sweetness left, only a hideous sense of unwillingness. After all this scheming, how could she be willing to be kicked out just like that? What she wants to do is to get rid of Mrs. Fu with just one house. Impossible. After Owen Fu made up his mind, his steps towards the Lila Jiang ward became faster and faster. It seemed that if he was just one step behind, the most important thing in his life would slip away from it. However, when he rushed to the ward, what he saw was a nurse tidying up the ward. Owen Fu's expression changed and he stepped forward urgently. Where are the people in this ward? Have you gone for a checkup? The nurse recognized his identity and said politely, Mr. Fu, Miss Jiang has been discharged from the hospital. Owen Fu's chest tightened for no reason. Discharged from the hospital? Why didn't she tell me when she was discharged from the hospital? Are you still angry? He felt inexplicably uneasy in his heart. As I turned around, I happened to see Lila Zhang's attending doctor. He frowned and said, Roro lost too much blood. Didn't I ask you to arrange for her to stay in the hospital for a few more days to recuperate? How could she be discharged? The attending doctor looked troubled and said, Mr. Fu, Miss Jiang has just undergone 2 surgeries and is still too weak. I also advise Miss Jiang to stay in the hospital for a few more days to rest. But she insisted on being discharged from the hospital. We couldn't stop her. Owen Fu Eling, 2 surgeries? Isn't it only once? What other surgeries were there when I sent her to the hospital after she was injured? The attending doctor was taken aback for a moment, then sighed. Mr. Fu, as soon as Miss Jiang woke up that day, I took her information to the ward and told you the news that Miss Jiang was pregnant. Owen Fu's pupils suddenly constricted, and he looked at him almost ecstatically. His voice trembled with excessive excitement. Roro is pregnant? Exclamation point. The attending doctor nodded subconsciously. Yes, but she said she didn't want to. Before he could finish speaking, Owen Fu had already turned around directly and rushed out quickly. I'm pregnant. Lila Jiang is pregnant. They're going to have their own baby. For all these years the two have been longing to have a child, but due to a series of misfortunes, they just couldn't get pregnant. The two of them underwent numerous tests but found no issues. In the end they could only let things take their natural course. Unexpectedly. I never expected that Lila Jiang was already pregnant. Owen Fu raised his hand and slapped himself hard. Lila Jiang was pregnant, yet he still quarreled and threw a tantrum with her and even physically hurt her. He really deserves to die. This time, no matter how angry Lila Jiang was, he was determined to seek her forgiveness. He ran so fast that he didn't hear the second half of what the attending doctor said at all. The attending doctor stared blankly at his retreating figure and murmured the entire sentence. She doesn't want it. She has already had a miscarriage. The nurse and the attending physician looked at each other, speechless for a moment. Owen Fu rushed out of the ward at a rapid pace and headed straight outside. However, as soon as I reached the hospital entrance, I met Mrs. Fu, whose face was ashen and who was hurrying into the hospital. Owen Fu's steps suddenly stopped and he looked at her in astonishment. "Mom? Why did you come to the hospital?" Fu's mother's face turned extremely gloomy as she walked towards him step by step. The next moment she suddenly raised her hand and slapped Owen Fu hard in the face. The crisp applause echoed in the hospital hall. The passing doctors and patients all looked in their direction in astonishment. Owen Fu's face was turned off and he looked at her in disbelief. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Exclamation point. Fu's mother looked at him with an extremely disappointed expression. "Owen Fu, when you were 5 years old, your father and I divorced. I have never hidden the reason for our divorce from you. It's all because your father cheated on his secretary. That woman kept provoking you and your father defended her time and again. He even didn't want you for her sake. Over the years I have raised you all by myself. Since you were little I have taught you to be loyal in love and to be faithful in marriage. You and Ruoro grew up together since childhood. I originally thought you were sincere about her and was very pleased, but I never expected. Nothing you learn is good. Just learn your dad's infidelity." Owen Fu's expression froze for a moment, and soon he began to explain somewhat sheepishly. "Mom. There's nothing between Lin Maisie and me. The person I love has always been Ruoro. I've already let Lin Maisie go and now I'm on my way to look for Ruoro. I will sincerely apologize to her and seek her forgiveness." Fu's mother looked at him coldly and suddenly gave a cold laugh. Over the past 6 months she has vaguely heard something about Owen Fu, the secretary. It was just that she didn't want to interfere too much in the life of the young couple Owen Fu and Lila Jiang. She also believed that Owen Fu cared so much about Lila Jiang that he would surely handle these matters properly. "I never expected that it would end up like this in the end." She gave Owen Fu a half-smile and said, "No one will always stand in the same place waiting for you." Her meaningful words made Owen Fu's heart race for a moment. The next moment Fu's mother waved her hand directly, indicating to the bodyguards, "Take him along." Having said that she went straight upstairs. The bodyguards, one on the left and the other on the right, were trying to control Owen Fu and follow behind Fu's mother. Owen frowned and shook them off. "Get out." Having said that he followed directly. Fu's mother rushed straight to Lin Maisie's ward. Although Owen Fu didn't understand the reason, he didn't stop him. He just said, "Mom, what happened between me and Ruoro has nothing to do with Lin Maisie. She's just a little secretary. Don't make things difficult for her." Fu's mother gave him a half-smile and said sarcastically, "Really?" The two of them came to the outside of Lin Maisie's ward. Just as I was about to push the door open and go in, I suddenly heard the voice of Lin Maisie. On the phone with someone inside. Fu's mother immediately raised her hand to stop the bodyguard from pushing the door. The few of them stood still at the door. In Lin Maisie's voice on the phone, there was a hint of exasperation. "Now Owen Fu doesn't want me anymore. He just wants to get rid of me with a dilapidated house. What should I do now? You said that as long as I help you steal the cooperation documents of the Fu family, you will help me ascend to the position of Lady Fu. If you don't help me, who will? I'm pregnant with your child. If I can marry Owen Fu, this child will be the heir of the Fu family in the future. Won't the Fu family be yours?" Lin Maisie's voice was full of calculation. Owen Fu at the door, upon hearing her words, immediately turned his face extremely gloomy and ugly. Lin Maisie has always been very playful and cute, with a lively personality, very much like Lila Jiang when she was in her teens. So he couldn't help but be soft-hearted towards her and became more tolerant. But he never expected that Lin Maisie had been deliberately approaching him from beginning to end. Her adoration, her kindness, her innocence and vulnerability are all false. She helped others steal his cooperation documents and even tried to plant others' seeds on his head. At this moment he was extremely glad that he had never really touched Lin Maisie. That day in the office, Lin Maisie suddenly flirted with her intentionally or unintentionally. He was indeed a bit out of control, but fortunately Lila Jiang barged in at the critical moment. Otherwise, I'm afraid he's really been tricked by Lin Maisie. Owen Fu clenched his fists and was about to rush in when his mother raised her hand to signal him to calm down. Why the rush? Owen Fu's expression was gloomy as he continued to listen to Lin Maisie's call in the ward. Lin Maisie's voice continued. She didn't know what the other person said to comfort her, but her voice became much calmer. At this moment it sounded more like she was smug. What about the eldest daughter of the Jiang family? It's still being discarded like a worn-out rag. Now Owen Fu feels ashamed of himself and wants to get rid of me and make up with her. But if I act and cry in front of Owen Fu, he will surely believe me blindly and stand by my side. If he had no feelings for me at all, how could I say that the Lila River hit me? And he took me to fight the Lila River back just to beg me to stay. How could he see me using a self-inflicted trick and pretending to commit suicide just to cut the Lila River with a knife for me? I only slashed myself once, but he slashed Lila Jiang 3 times. Just thinking of the miserable state of the Lila River makes me feel relieved. Owen Fu, upon hearing Lin Maisie's smug words, could no longer bear it any longer. He suddenly lifted his foot and kicked it against the ward door. The ward door was kicked open. Lin Maisie screamed in terror and suddenly looked up at the door. The next moment the smugness on her face vanished in an instant, leaving only a pale complexion. Fu. Mr. Fu. She looked at them with the last shred of hope. You. When did you come? Owen lowered his eyes and looked at her coldly. You came when you were telling me how you were scheming against me. Lin Maisie, in a panic, hurriedly got up from the hospital bed, rushed over and knelt down with a thud in front of Owen Fu. Mr. Fu. Mr. Fu, listen to my explanation. All those were just my nonsense. I was just talking nonsense. She slapped her mouth hard. Those are all fake. I just didn't want to leave you, so I was so angry that I deliberately spoke nonsense. You know me. I've been in the company for half a year and I've always been very obedient and well-behaved. It's because I love you in my heart that I want to stay by your side. So when you said you wanted to drive me away, I got angry and said these angry words. I really have no other intentions. Trust me, please trust me. Lin Maisie looked up at him, her tears welling up and down, and in an instant she cried into a pitiful appearance. Owen Fu watched her change her face so quickly that he found it absurd and laughable. Her acting was so poor, yet he actually believed in her like this. Even because of such a woman he hurt Lila Jiang time and again. He's simply crazy. And beside him Mrs. Fu, admiring his pain and remorse, said unhurriedly, Don't rush to explain. There are still a lot of good things here waiting for you to explain. While they were talking, she directly took out a stack of documents and photos and threw them at Lin Maisie's face. A piece of paper cut the skin on Lin Maisie's face and blood seeped out. She didn't care about the pain and quickly lowered her head to look at those photos, immediately screaming out loud. No, no. All of these are fake. All of them are fake. It's P. She rushed over frantically to pick them up, but there were too many photos for her to finish, and all the contents on them were exposed to everyone's eyes. Owen lowered his eyes and looked at the photos on the ground. All of the above are photos of Lin Maisie being kept by someone before, drinking and playing games with some elderly men time and again, and even some private photos. In the photo she is heavily made up and her expression is intoxicated and absorbed, showing no sign of reluctance at all. That extravagant and materialistic look of hers was completely different from her usual innocent and weak appearance when she was by Owen Fu's side. Lin Maisie was crying her heart out. Believe me, Mr. Fu. All of this is fake. It's all someone else who made me deliberately edit it. I've never done this before. Owen Fu's forehead veins twitched as he picked up the documents on the ground. The above has detailedly depicted all the things Lin Maisie did behind the scenes. Since Lin Maisie came to Owen Fu's side as a secretary, she has repeatedly plotted evidence to frame Lila Jiang. When she framed Lila Jiang for hitting her at home, the surveillance camera clearly captured that it was she who first provoked Lila Jiang, and it was also she who held Lila Jiang's hand and hit him. She framed Lila Jiang and forced her to leave Beijing. In fact, it was she herself who had her slapped more than 10 times and deliberately put on makeup to make it look more serious. Before Owen Fu came to see her, she had been hanging out and enjoying herself with other men. It was not until Owen Fu went to see her that she pretended to be pitiful. Taking advantage of his sense of guilt, he proposed to fight back to the Lila River, and only then did she agree to stay. And her suicide. In fact, the skin she cut was very shallow and the blood she bled was only a little. The so-called rescue for excessive blood loss was nothing but a show of buying plasma. It was she who bribed those doctors and nurses. Owen Fu held the documents in his hands. The more he looked, the more gloomy and ugly his expression became. His fingers trembled as he clutched the documents tightly, his eyes red. The next moment he finally couldn't stand it any longer and kicked Lin Maisie hard in the abdomen, sending her flying. Bitch. Lin Maisie let out a scream and collapsed to the ground in great pain. Owen Fu's kick was extremely forceful. Lin Maisie's whole body twitched and she suddenly covered her abdomen. Why? My stomach. It hurt so much. Almost at the moment her words were spoken, a pool of blood rose from beneath her. The child she wanted to frame Owen Fu is gone. Lin Maisie was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face, but she didn't care about it at all. She just looked at Owen Fu pitifully. Mr. Fu, I was wrong. It's all because I love you so much and I want to marry you that I did all this. I was forced to do it. Please let me go. Her plea for mercy seemed like hot oil poured over her anger. Owen Fu, out of control, rushed over and kicked Lin Maisie hard in the abdomen again. One after another without the slightest mercy. Bitch. How dare you? How dare you plan to hurt Roro like this? You deserve to die. Die to me. Go to hell. Owen Fu's eyes reddened and he went all out, almost aiming for his life to strike. Lin Maisie was trembling with terror and desperately begged for mercy. Ah. Mr. Fu, please spare me. I was wrong. Please. Owen Fu, however, didn't stop at all. No matter how Lin Maisie begged for mercy, he kicked dozens of times. Lin Maisie was convulsing all over and had completely lost consciousness, looking as if she was breathing out more and taking in less. Fu's mother waved her hand and signaled the bodyguard. Stop him. The bodyguard rushed forward, seized the furious Owen Fu and stopped him. Fu Mu said coldly, even if you kill her now, it won't help. Owen Fu suddenly calmed down a little. He ran out in a daze. I have to go and find Roro. I have to find her. Fu's mother didn't stop him and let him rush out like a madman. Looking at his back, she sighed silently. Son, you came to your senses too late. Lila Jiang has a stubborn personality. After suffering so much injustice, she has never complained or poured out her grievances to her mother-in-law. Now when these things are handed to her, her attitude is self-evident. She has already. I've completely given up on Owen Fu. Owen Fu had already rushed to the parking lot. He took out his mobile phone and couldn't wait to call Lila Jiang's number. However, when the call was made, no one answered for a long time. Owen Fu was feeling frustrated and accidentally saw an unread text message on his mobile phone. By some strange twist of fate, he clicked in and found that it was from the Civil Affairs Bureau, informing him that the cooling-off period had ended and he could go to get the divorce certificate. If it were in the past, he would surely just smile and no longer pay attention. But at this moment, Owen Fu felt his breathing hard and his heart was extremely panicked. But he tried desperately to comfort himself. No, Lila Jiang loves him so much that she definitely won't be willing to divorce him. He agreed to divorce merely to scare Lila Jiang. This was an unspoken understanding between them. They had long known to each other that they were going to be together for a lifetime. Owen Fu kept comforting himself and brainwashing himself before he could calm down a little. He got into the car, stepped on the accelerator all the way down and rushed out. Every word in those documents kept surfacing in his mind. Just thinking about how he had helped Lin Maisie and bullied and hurt Lila Jiang so much like this made him hate himself to the core. He turned into an executioner who hurt the one he loved the most. If Lila Jiang is discharged from the hospital, she must have gone home. She will surely be waiting at home for his apology and for him to come to his senses. Just like countless times before. Owen Fu, filled with guilt and remorse, rushed straight home. As he opened the door, he shouted in a panic, "Ruruo! Ruruo! I know I was wrong, Ruruo. Sorry. Sorry. And at the very moment he opened the door, his eyes were drawn to the red thin book on the shoe cabinet. Owen Fu's movements froze instantly, and he stared blankly at the red document. He seemed as if his entire being had been immobilized. It was quite a while before he came to his senses. With a stiff movement, he reached out his hand and grabbed the thin yet seemingly heavy red book. Divorce certificate. Impossible. This is false. This must be fake. Owen Fu trembled as he opened the divorce certificate. Above, his name is displayed. The steel stamp on the divorce certificate shattered his last shred of fantasy. He and Lila Jiang really got divorced. Owen Fu's eyes were instantly pricked, so painful that tears welled up in them. At this moment, the piece of paper beneath the divorce certificate fell to the ground. Owen Fu mechanically bent down to pick it up, but as he hunched over and looked clearly at the words on it, his pupils suddenly constricted and he lost his strength. Consent form for abortion surgery. He and Lila Jiang's children. It's gone. It's gone. Owen Fu slumped to the ground. He looked up, his vacant eyes fixed on the villa where he and Lila Jiang had lived for 3 years. Those things inside that he thought he was familiar with had long been thrown away by Lila Jiang last time because of his quarrel with her. At this moment, the villa was empty and desolate like a cage. He who had been abandoned by the Lila River was trapped within it. Owen Fu, in a state of utter collapse, raised his hand, tightly grasping his hair, hunched over and shouted out in excruciating pain. Ruruo. I was wrong. I was wrong. Lila Jiang had already returned to the Jiang family by this time. She was wearing a white dress and pushing a simple suitcase as she walked straight into the house. Jiang's parents and Lila Jiang's elder brother Jiang Jian were chatting idly. Hearing the commotion, he turned his head to look at her and immediately looked over with a look of surprise and delight. Jiang Jian joked, "Oh, you rare guest. How come you suddenly decide to go home and see your parents and me, a left-behind child?" Mother Jiang also looked at the box she was carrying in her hand in surprise. "Ruo, why did you still bring a suitcase? Did you have a quarrel with Owen? The Jiang family and the Fu family are not far apart. It's just a 2-hour drive." Lila Jiang would come home for a meal occasionally, but she had been clingy to Owen Fu since childhood. After getting married, Owen Fu was even more clingy to her. She seldom moved back directly. At this moment, seeing her carrying a suitcase, her family couldn't help but feel puzzled. Lila Jiang opened her mouth and her eyes suddenly reddened. The joking expression on Jiang Jian's face vanished instantly, and he frowned as he stepped forward. "What happened? Did Owen Fu bully you? I'm going to beat him up right now." Saying that, he rushed out. Lila Jiang hurriedly grabbed his hand. Looking at the concerned gazes of her family members, Lila Jiang choked up and said, "Dad, Mom, brother, I'm divorced from Owen Fu." The Jiang family members were startled and said in unison, "What?" Exclamation point. Lila Jiang was dragged onto the sofa and sat down. The Jiang family members all had rather solemn expressions on their faces. They knew how good the relationship between Lila Jiang and Owen Fu was. Lila Jiang is not a very spoiled person. She grew up with Owen Fu since childhood and hardly ever quarreled. How could this be so fine? Just suddenly got divorced? Looking at her parents' concerned expressions, Lila Jiang didn't want them to persuade her to remarry Owen Fu. Immediately, he no longer concealed anything but told everything that had happened over the past 6 months. Mother Jiang listened while crying. By the time Lila Jiang finished speaking, Jiang's mother had already collapsed into Jiang's father's arms, crying so hard. Her hands trembled as she cupped Lila Jiang's arms and carefully pulled up her sleeves, revealing the 3 scars on her arms. Mother Jiang cried and said, "You are so stupid. Having suffered so much injustice, why didn't you tell your parents and elder brother? How could I just be so foolishly bullied?" Lila Jiang was sobbing uncontrollably. She didn't want her family to worry and also didn't expect Owen Fu was actually so cruel to her. She has indeed paid the price for her naivety. Jiang Jian looked at the injury on Lila Jiang's arm and gritted his teeth even harder, clenching his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot. When he mentioned Owen Fu's name, he wished he could chew him to pieces. Jiang's father was usually rather restrained. Looking at his daughter who had been wronged, his eyes also reddened. After calming down for a moment, he directly picked up his mobile phone and informed his secretary, "Notice. From today on, the Jiang and Fu families are irreconcilable. Jiang family and Fu family, we won't stop until we die." Lila Jiang was taken aback and looked at Jiang's father with some concern. "Dad." Jiang's father raised his hand to stop Lila Jiang's words. "Daughter, your parents have been striving hard all their lives just to ensure that our son and daughter can live a comfortable life. If my daughter is bullied like this and we still have to think it over carefully, hide and endure, then what is the purpose of our efforts?" Mother Jiang beside her also nodded immediately. "Exactly. No matter what happened to the Fu family in the past, they just won't do to you like this." Jiang Jian also nodded immediately. "Exactly. I also support Dad's decision." Lila Jiang, with tears streaming down her face, couldn't hold back any longer and threw herself into her parents' arms, wailing loudly. Lila Jiang's room was often tidied up by her mother, and it was always spotlessly clean. Exhausted, Lila Jiang handed her suitcase to the servant and then went back to her room to rest. Finally back with her family, her heart finally settled down and she could finally have a peaceful sleep. And on the very night when Lila Jiang returned home, Fu's mother came in person. The falling out between the Jiang family and the Fu family has been making a big fuss online. However, Fu's mother has always been very fond of Lila Jiang and her brother. Although Jiang's parents were angry, seeing Fu's mother's very polite attitude, the first thing she said was to care about Lila Jiang's health. They still let her in. Lila Jiang hesitated for a while but still went downstairs. When Fu's mother saw Lila Jiang, her eyes welled up with tears for a moment. "You've lost weight." During this period, Lila Jiang has not only been psychologically hurt but also physically tortured. Her already slender body has lost a lot of weight. These two simple words made Jiang's parents' eyes well up with tears and they felt extremely heartbroken. Fu Mu sighed and then made her position clear. "Roro, Auntie isn't here to persuade you to make up with Owen. Back then, I divorced Owen's father because he had an affair with his secretary. I never expected that he would follow in his father's footsteps. I have already investigated the identity of Lin Maisie. When she was in college, she was kept by someone. Later she got involved with Fu Xiang, who sent her to get close to Owen." Lila Jiang was taken aback. She found out that Lin Maisie was not clean, but she didn't look into who was behind the scenes. She knew that if she handed over the materials, Fu's mother would surely be able to find out. "But I never expected it to be Fu Xiang. Owen Fu's half-brother, the child born to his mistress." When Fu's mother found out that Fu's father was unfaithful, even the son of the mistress was only 1 year younger than Owen Fu. Heartbroken, she divorced him directly. Out of guilt, Fu's father also left most of the family property to Owen Fu and his mother. "I never expected that I would now be targeted by the son of the mistress." Lila Jiang could only sigh. Immediately after, Fu's mother took out another document. "No matter what the reason is, it's a fact that he has wronged you. This is the compensation I give you as his mother." Lila Jiang opened the document and found that it was actually the shares of the Fu family, which accounted for more than half of the assets under Fu's mother's name. Fu's mother looked at the Jiang family with a wry smile. "To be honest, I did this also to preserve the Fu family. I don't want the things I have strived for all my life to be ruined by him. It's better to call a truce than for the two families to fight and benefit others." Fu's mother was well aware that the Jiang family's rage had only lasted for 1 day, and both families had already suffered heavy losses. If this continues, it will be bad for both families. So she rushed over overnight just to find a way to solve this matter. Jiang's father and mother remained silent for a moment. Jiang Jian spoke first. "What about Owen Fu?" Mother Fu said calmly, "I'll have Owen leave the company and find a suitable successor from the side department." Jiang Jian's eyes were cold and solemn. "You should know how Owen Fu treated our family's Ruro, right? What our Jiang family wants is far more than that." Before Fu's mother came, she went to see Owen Fu and told him the decision to compensate the Jiang family. Thinking of Owen Fu's remorseful and painful look at that time, she gave a wry smile. "I know. I won't interfere with how you treat him. Just consider it as letting him atone for his sins." Lila Jiang finally agreed to Fu's mother's proposal. After all, from childhood to adulthood, before and after marriage, Fu's mother had always been very kind to her. She hated Owen Fu, but she didn't vent her anger on Fu's mother. In front of the Jiang family, Fu's mother directly asked the company to issue a statement, announcing that Owen Fu would no longer be the president of the Fu family from then on. Lila Jiang entrusted the matter to Jiang Jian to handle and planned to travel abroad for a period of time herself. During this period she was physically and mentally exhausted. She didn't want to get entangled with Owen Fu any longer. However, before they could set off the next day, Owen Fu had already arrived at the Jiang family's gate. Accompanying him was Lin Maisie. In the past, when Owen Fu came to the Jiang family, it was as natural as coming to his own home. From top to bottom, the Jiang family treated him extremely close. The old servants of the Jiang family had watched him and Lila Jiang grow up. At this moment, as soon as he appeared, everyone looked at him with hostile eyes. The bodyguards even walked out of the Jiang family's house directly and stared at the gate tightly, not allowing him to step in even half a step. The earth-shaking changes made Owen Fu's heart ache even more. He looked up and gazed in the direction of the Lila River room inside the villa. At this moment, Lila Jiang also heard the commotion downstairs. Standing by the window and looking out, she spotted him at a glance. The two looked into each other's eyes. Owen Fu, in a daze, recalled the past. Once upon a time, before the Fu family moved to another district to live, the two families lived next door. He often came to the Jiang family to look for Lila Jiang. Sometimes when they made an appointment to go out together, Lila Jiang would get ready early and wait for him by the window. As soon as he reached the door, she could spot him at once, and the moment she saw him, her eyes instantly shone brightly. Within 3 minutes, he could hear the rapid thumping of footsteps. Before long, she would fly out of the house like a fluttering butterfly and fall into his arms. At this moment, the two of them, as before, were gazing at each other from afar. There was not a trace of joy in Lila Jiang's eyes, only coldness and ruthlessness. She looked down at him from a height, her gaze even more distant and cold than that of a stranger. Owen Fu was heartbroken beyond words and murmured to her, "Ruo." In just 2 days he was no longer the spirited and strategic figure he used to be. He hadn't slept for 2 full days, and at this moment his eyes were filled with red blood vessels that had been boiled over. The moment he saw the Lila River, his eyes reddened. Thinking of all the hardships she had endured, thinking of her being sent to the operating room to have their child aborted. Owen Fu suddenly raised his hand and slapped himself hard in the face. The next moment he turned around directly and dragged Lin Maisie out of the car. Lin Maisie had her hair loose, her face black and blue, and she looked very disheveled. The moment Owen Fu reached out his hand to her, she immediately screamed in terror. "No! Don't hit me. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please don't hit me anymore. Please." She struggled frantically, no longer showing the slightest trace of her former arrogance. Owen Fu didn't hold her back. She knelt directly on the ground and kowtowed loudly in the direction of Owen Fu and the Jiang family. With just a few strokes of force, her forehead was marked with blood by the crushed stones. But she didn't dare to stop at all and could only kowtow desperately. Thinking of everything that had happened in the hospital, Lin Maisie's eyes were filled with terror and fear. She was knocked unconscious by Owen Fu just like that. Her child was kicked to the point of miscarriage. And that was not all. She bled heavily on the operating table, and Owen Fu directly asked the doctor to remove her uterus. She will never be able to get pregnant again in her life. Owen Fu is a lunatic, a complete lunatic. Lin Maisie had never had such a moment of regret to provoke him. Owen watched her kowtow with cold eyes and ignored her. Instead, he raised his voice directly and said in the direction of the Lila River, "Ruo, I already know what Lin Maisie has done. Don't worry. No matter how many times she has hurt you, I will return to her 10 times as much of the torment. She broke your heart and aborted our child. I also made her lose her child and had the doctor remove her uterus. She will never be able to use this belly to harm others again in her life. Ruo, how else do you want to torture her to calm down? Tell me and I'll do it all." Lila Jiang watched Lin Maisie's frantic apology at the door. After a moment of surprise, his eyes quickly calmed down. She did not sympathize with Lin Maisie's fate, nor did she feel the least bit relieved because of her tragic situation. There is only one thought: you deserve it. She still remembers very clearly the way Lin Maisie was so arrogant and kept provoking her back then. Seeing that Lila Jiang remained silent all the time, Owen Fu's eyes became even redder. He looked up at her, his eyes filled with guilt, remorse, and yearning. All kinds of complex emotions overwhelmed him. Bro, I know. Actually, the person you hate is not Lynn Maisie, but me. The one who has hurt you the most is me. I shouldn't have blindly believed her words. I shouldn't have been so stupid as to hurt you for her. I really regret it. I really know I was wrong, Ruoro. Please forgive me again, okay? I swear this is the last time. Whatever you ask me to do, I really can't live without you. Owen Fu's voice was hoarse and painful, carrying an endless and humble plea. Lila Jiang looked at his pained, pleading expression and in a trance recalled the past. She raised her hand and gently pressed it against her own chest. Once, when she saw Owen Fu pleading for mercy, she would feel heartbroken and uncomfortable. But now, seeing him so humble, she was already half moved. When she loved him, she couldn't bear to see him suffer the slightest injustice. She no longer loved him. No matter how humbly he pleaded, she remained indifferent. Owen Fu once said that he would no longer beg for her forgiveness like a dog in front of her. Lila Jiang smiled slowly. Now, even if he really begged her for forgiveness like a dog, she wouldn't look back. In an instant, Lila Jiang's eyes turned completely cold. She didn't even glance at Owen Fu, who was still pleading desperately at the door, and directly raised her hand to draw the curtain, blocking his view. Owen Fu felt a sharp pain in his heart and his voice was shrill and desperate. Ruoro. Just as Lila Jiang drew the curtains, the Jiang family's door opened and Jiang Jian walked out slowly. He glanced at Lin Maisie, who was kneeling on the ground, and then his gaze fell on Owen Fu. Jiang Jian gave the bodyguard a look. What are you standing there for? Take these Miss Lin downstairs and treat them well. The grudge of our Jiang family will take it ourselves. My sister Jiang Jian, I spoil her myself. Take good care of my sister just as Miss Lin treated her. The bodyguard nodded immediately, stepped forward and grabbed Lin Maisie on either side, dragging her towards another villa of the Jiang family. Lin Maisie immediately let out a shrill and frightened scream. No. No. I'm not going. Let me go. Let me go. Help. The Jiang family's bodyguard, expressionless, slapped her directly, interrupting her crying and shouting. The bodyguard was tall to begin with and practiced boxing all year round. When he struck, he showed no mercy. With one slap, Lin Maisie immediately felt dizzy and disoriented. She lowered her head, coughed and spat out blood, which was mixed with 2 teeth. When she opened her mouth again, her voice was weak and indistinct. Please. Let me go. Let me go. Jiang Jian just looked at her with a half-smile, his eyes icy cold. On the other side, Owen Fu had no intention of saving her from beginning to end. Lin Maisie's heart had completely plunged into an ice cave. It was not until Lin Maisie was dragged down that Jiang Jian looked at Owen Fu. Do you want Ruoro to forgive you? Owen Fu nodded hurriedly. As long as Ruoro can forgive me, I'll pay any price. Jiang Jian smiled, a mocking smile. So you love her so much? Owen Fu's face turned pale and he still said in a trembling voice, It's my fault. I'm sorry, Ruoro. But I swear I've never loved her for a single second. Jiang Jian couldn't hold back his laughter. Slowly, the smile on his face faded, and he became expressionless and extremely cold. He raised his hand and directly pulled out a dagger, throwing it at Owen Fu's feet. Since you said you love him, that's fine. Let me see your sincerity. Owen Fu looked at the dusty dagger on the ground and immediately understood Jiang Jian's meaning. Without hesitation, he bent down and picked up the dagger directly. Then without a second thought, he pulled it out and stabbed himself hard in the thigh. Owen let out a painful and suppressed groan and staggered. Owen Fu's bodyguard's expression changed dramatically and he hurriedly tried to rush forward. Mr. Fu. Owen Fu raised his hand and said, Don't come over. Jiang Jian looked at him carelessly, then raised his hand and patted the palm of his hand. Not bad. Owen Fu's face turned deathly pale due to the intense pain, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. After Jiang Jian finished speaking, he directly pulled the dagger out of his thigh. While blood was splattering everywhere, he plunged the dagger into his own abdomen with all his might. Jiang Jian narrowed his eyes and spread out his hand to him, indicating, Continue. Owen Fu was in so much pain that he couldn't stand steadily and fell to his knees directly. With a pale face, he stared fixedly in the direction of Lila Jiang's room. Although he could only see the tightly closed curtains. Then he slowly drew out the dagger and stabbed himself in the abdomen again. The third strike. The blood on his body had already spilled all over the ground. The color on Owen Fu's face had long since completely faded. In excruciating pain he gradually lost consciousness. What came to mind was the image of him leaving bloodstains on Lila Zhang's hand in the room. At that time her expression was so painful and her cries were so pitiful. She begged him to stop, but he was so heartless. Time and again he hurt her. Owen Fu could no longer hold back his remorse and shed tears of regret. He slowly collapsed to the ground and, due to excessive blood loss, completely lost consciousness. Jiang Jian gave a soft snort and looked at Owen Fu's bodyguard with disgust. "Take him away. Don't die at our doorstep and dirty the land of our Jiang family." Owen Fu's bodyguards rushed over in a hurry, treated his wounds urgently and rushed him to the hospital promptly. Jiang Jian looked at the blood all over the ground and said to the servant, "Make it clean up. Don't let Roro be upset if she sees it." The servants also knew that the young lady had returned home heartbroken and hurriedly began to clean. Jiang Jian glanced at the blood spots on his body, went back to his room to change his clothes, and then went to Lila Zhang's room. A large suitcase was spread out in the room. Lila Zhang was not affected by Owen Fu's arrival and was carefully packing his luggage. Jiang Jian stood quietly at the door and looked at her for a while before saying, "Feeling heartbroken?" Lila Zhang paused in her movements, looked up at Jiang Jian with a hint of helplessness in her eyes. "Brother, when I have time I'll care for him. I'd better care for myself. Please don't test me. No matter how much I mistreat myself, I won't turn around and care if someone is hurt after cutting me with a knife. Owen and Fu have nothing to do with me anymore." Jiang Jian smiled and said, "It's my sister Jiang Jian." Lila Jiang chuckled softly. "But I don't want to see him anymore. I'll be leaving later." Jiang Jian nodded. "Okay, but I'm not at ease with you alone. I happen to have a friend in the place you're going to who can take care of you." Lila Jiang turned to look at him and said, "I'm not a child anymore." Jiang Jian said expressionlessly, "Yes, a child wouldn't go home in such a sorry state. When a child is bullied, the first thing they know is to go home and complain." Lila Jiang immediately fell silent. Jiang Jian personally saw her off at the plane that day and gave her a number, asking her to contact his friends upon her arrival. Lila Jiang had already planned to stay abroad for a while to avoid Owen Fu before returning to China. It took a long flight of over 10 hours to reach the Lila River. After dragging her suitcase to the airport pickup hall, Lila Jiang was immediately drawn to a tall and extremely handsome man. The man also saw her at the first moment and then waved at her. Lila Jiang immediately walked towards him and said, "You are Xie Zhoubai." Xie Zhoubai was dressed in a silver-gray suit, looking tall and refined. He nodded and casually took the suitcase from her hand. "Yes." Lila Jiang said somewhat uncomfortably, "Mr. Xie, I'm sorry to trouble you." Xie Zhoubai curled his lips and led her out. Lila Jiang didn't know Xie Zhoubai, but fortunately, although Xie Zhoubai seemed a little distant, he would still find some topics to talk about at the right time. The atmosphere won't be too dull. Lila Jiang soon followed him to the accommodation he had arranged for her. She thought he would simply arrange a place for her to live in, and as long as she could meet Jiang Jian's requirements, that would be fine. Little did she know that when Lila Jiang got home and looked at the house with its strong masculine characteristics, her gaze fell on the men's coat placed on the sofa. She stared at him blankly. "Mr. Xie. This. He actually arranged for her to live with him?" Xie Zhoubai raised his hand and slightly loosened the tie around his neck. The ascetic aura on her was shattered, and she gained a touch more of casualness and wildness. There was a hint of a smile in his eyes as he said indifferently, "Your brother said to make sure you are safe. I think it's safer only when it's right under one's nose." Lila Jiang immediately felt as if she were a child, left behind by her family at a friend's house. Xie Zhoubai noticed her shyness and said with a smile, "Don't worry. I'm at the company most of the time. I just come back to sleep at night. You can use whatever you like at home. You can add anything you want. There's no need to be too reserved." Xie Zhoubai briefly introduced the home layout to her, answered a phone call, and then hurriedly went into the study to be busy. Lila Jiang watched him enter the study and finally relaxed a little. She pushed the suitcase into the secondary bedroom and immediately noticed that the decoration and layout of the secondary bedroom were quite different from those outside. It looked much softer and seemed to have been specially prepared for her. Lila Jiang tidied up her things briefly and then immediately took out her phone, cursing Jiang Jian from head to toe. Little did he know that after hearing her words, Jiang Jian smiled for a while and then said, Xie Zhoubai is a top-notch bachelor, much better than Owen Fu, that good-for-nothing. Everyone says that the best way to get over a relationship is to start a new one. I'm waiting for your good news, bro. Lila Jiang was so angry that she snapped up the phone. Jiang Jian was afraid that she would come back and forgive Owen Fu, so he hurriedly sent her away. Now in his heart, perhaps any man by the roadside is more reliable than Owen Fu. Although Lila scolded Jiang, she knew in her heart that Jiang Jian was worried about her and had her best interests at heart. Fearing that her family would worry, although she wasn't quite used to it, she didn't leave either. Fortunately, Xie Zhoubai was very busy and highly respected her sense of boundaries. She stayed at Xie Zhoubai's home for a full month. He spends most of his time at the company, occasionally staying at home and often holding long meetings in his study. Lila Jiang lived with him but was very free. Whether sleeping at home or going out for a stroll, he never raised any objections. When he is not busy, he will also accompany her to wander around the city. Xie Zhoubai is very erudite. No matter where he goes, he can always tell some historical and cultural stories about certain scenic spots in a gentle and smooth way. Lila Jiang always listened with great interest. It was not until one day when Xie Zhoubai got off work very late that Lila Jiang saw him holding his abdomen and looking rather pale, and guessed that he must have a stomachache. She was not good at cooking, so she cooked him a bowl of instant noodles. Xie Zhoubai also ate it with great relish. The relationship between the two people suddenly drew much closer imperceptibly, and they gradually became friends. Lila Jiang hardly thought of those past events with Owen Fu for a long time. However, on this day Xie Zhoubai had a rare rest and was ready to cook himself. The two of them went to the supermarket together to buy a large quantity of food and came back. Lila Jiang saw a familiar figure at the door. The bag of apples in my hand fell off. The apple rolled out of the bag and rolled down to Owen Fu's feet. Owen Fu looks even more disheveled at this moment than he did a month ago. He was wearing a long windbreaker and was extremely thin. His eyes were fixed on her intently, filled with fanaticism. The next day after waking up in the hospital, he rushed to the Jiang family again with his injury. However, the Jiang family's door was tightly closed. No matter how he pleaded, no one opened it for him. He simply knelt down in front of Jiang's house and waited by her side every day, begging Jiang to see him. After kneeling for 2 days, he fainted from a high fever and was sent to the hospital again. Finally, an old servant of the Jiang family who had watched him grow up felt pity and told him that Lila Jiang had long gone abroad and was no longer at home. Owen Fu, with red eyes, looked at Lila Jiang. Roro, I've been looking for you these days. Your elder brother deliberately gave me a lot of wrong information. During this month I flew all over the place looking for one place after another. Finally I found you. Roro, I really know I was wrong. Please give me some time. Can we have a chat? Xie Zhoubai noticed that Lila Jiang's expression was not good and lowered his eyes gently, saying, Do you know? Lila Jiang pursed her lips and bent down to pick up her friend on the ground. Owen Fu also bent down to help her pick up what was at his feet. However, Lila Jiang simply ignored what was in his hand. After picking up the others, she directly said to Xie Zhoubai, Let's go. Let's go home. The moment Owen Fu saw them, he kept sizing up Xie Zhoubai without showing any emotion. At this moment, seeing Lila Jiang mention the words home, his pupils constricted immediately and he stepped forward somewhat unsteadily, blocking Lila Jiang's way. Roro, what kind of person is he that you don't have? Why did you go home together? Xie Zhoubai raised his hand, grabbed Lila Jiang's arm and protected her behind him. He narrowed his eyes coldly and looked at Owen Fu. Who are you again? Owen Fu said without hesitation, I'm her husband. Lila Jiang couldn't hold back and snorted softly, Husband? Her eyes were cold as she looked at Owen Fu. Even without saying it explicitly, the mockery in her eyes was enough to hurt. Mr. Fu, at such a young age, is his memory not so good? You signed the divorce agreement yourself. How could you forget it so soon? I really can't remember. I'll go home and look through the divorce certificate. I'll always be able to remember. Lila Jiang, merciless and with mocking words, stabbed at him without mercy. Owen's heart was filled with pain. He spoke with difficulty. Roro, I admit that it was my stupidity at that time. I arrogantly thought you were just sulting for a moment and that you couldn't really divorce me. I never thought I would really divorce you, never thought I would lose you. Lila Jiang playfully repeated the two words never from his mouth. She raised her eyes to look at him. Owen Fu, you are an adult. The moment you signed your name, you knew very well that there was a real possibility that we would get divorced. Stop deceiving yourself. In your heart, Owen Fu, there was once a moment when you were also looking forward to a divorce from me, weren't you? Owen Fu was startled and immediately trembled as he said, I didn't. Lila Jiang chuckled, her tone very certain, you have. She looked at him, her eyes cold and indifferent as if she were looking at a stranger. We grew up together since childhood. Just because I love you, you let yourself go and also let Lin Maisie go, time and again crossing my bottom line. You saw me heartbroken and in agony for you, my pain turned into your joy. You arrogantly think that I can't live without you. No matter what mistakes you make, I can only stand still, foolishly waiting for you to come back. But there was also a moment when you actually thought about getting a divorce. Because of your inherent flaws, you have detested such peaceful happiness. Just like your father, you pursue excitement and pleasure. You have long been attracted to Lin Maisie. That's why you, knowing full well that I could never forgive you, still allowed Lin Maisie to hurt me. That's why you and Lin Maisie lost control and just got along in the office. Lila Jiang suddenly raised her hand and pulled up the sleeve on her arm, revealing 3 scars on it. Xie Zhoubai, standing aside, looked at the injury on her arm and his pupils constricted. Owen Fu's face turned extremely pale. Lila Jiang smiled mockingly and looked at him with tears in her eyes. Owen Fu, stop playing the role of being so affectionate. If you had never had any feelings for Lin Maisie, if you had only been deceived, how could you have slashed me 3 times for her and almost taken my life? Owen Fu trembled his lips and was speechless for a moment. Lila Jiang's words were like a powerful hand, lifting the last veil of shame in his heart. Owen Fu had deceived himself countless times. He was deceived too. Even if he made mistakes, there was still hope for him. He has turned the corner and he has also made Lin Maisie pay the price. But Lila Jiang's words made it impossible for him to deceive himself any longer. Although he realized that the person he loved the most would always be Lila Jiang, and although he turned back in time and even went to scold Lin Maisie in a fit of rage, but he couldn't hide the fact that he had really thought about making Lin Maisie his woman. Even he repeatedly tested the bottom line of the Lila River. Once the Lila River gave in again. Owen Fu opened his lips but couldn't speak. His words became weak and pale. Seeing his dejected look after she had hit the mark on his heart, Lila Jiang sneered and walked straight past him, heading home. Xie Zhoubai gave Owen Fu a cold look and then followed Lila Jiang with something in his hand. Owen raised his eyes and looked at Lila Jiang's retreating figure. Ruruo. Lila Jiang turned a deaf ear to his cries and went straight home. She sat there in a daze on the sofa for a long time. It wasn't until she smelled the fragrance at the tip of her nose that she gradually came to her senses. Looking back, I found that Xie Zhoubai had already made a lot of delicious food, which was being placed one by one on the dining table. Lila Jiang was immediately embarrassed. Sorry, I clearly said I would assist you. Xie Zhoubai, with a gentle smile on his face, handed her the chopsticks and said, now helping to finish these dishes can be considered as giving a hand. Lila Jiang took the chopsticks and began to eat. Xie Zhoubai didn't ask her much about her relationship with Owen Fu, but she subconsciously began to pour out her heart to him. Those pent-up emotions I dare not tell my family, fearing that they will worry. But in the face of the half-acquainted Xie Zhoubai, she had no scruples at all. She was not good at drinking alcohol to begin with. While speaking, she drank more than half a bottle of red wine and got drunk in no time. But she still held on to the wine bottle tightly in her hand. Xie Zhoubai got up, took the red wine bottle from her hand, picked her up and headed towards her room. Lila Jiang leaned against his arms, her tears flowing silently. She suddenly lowered her head and bit him hard on the shoulder. Xie Zhoubai was in pain, but he didn't let her go. Instead, he instinctively held her tighter, fearing that she might fall. And she lay on his shoulder, her breath spraying onto his neck. Her voice was so faint that it was almost inaudible, yet he still heard her words full of regret. Why do we still lose happiness when we have already grasped it? Why do people always change? Xie Zhoubai carefully placed her on the bed, covered her with the quilt and looked down at her. After a while, he somewhat restrainedly reached out his hand, pushed aside the disheveled hair on her cheek and said gently, perhaps that was the wrong person from the very beginning. When Lila Jiang woke up the next day, she found herself back in bed. She was stunned for a few seconds, only remembering that the day before, while she was eating, she had started drinking red wine. While drinking, she talked to Xie Zhoubai about what happened between her and Owen Fu. They have known each other for too long and the story is just too long. Later, her consciousness began to blur and she couldn't remember at all what had happened. She got up and washed up, only to find that Xie Zhoubai hadn't gone to work yet and had already cooked breakfast. She moved to the dining table and while having breakfast said somewhat guiltily, "Did I get drunk yesterday?" Xie Zhoubai's fingers brushed over the spot on his shoulder where she had bitten him and then with a natural expression, poured her a cup of milk. No. Only then did Lila Jiang breathe a sigh of relief. Xie Zhoubai had a hint of a smile in his eyes. "I'm not busy today. Shall I go for a walk with you?" Lila Jiang's eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly. Okay. The two of them soon went downstairs. Seeing that it was wet outside, Lila Jiang realized that it had rained all night last night. Looking up, she saw a figure standing in front of the villa where they lived. Owen Fu probably stood outside the whole night. He was all wet and his complexion was particularly pale, looking extremely disheveled. The originally lifeless eyes lit up the moment they saw her. Ruruo. He hurried towards her, his eyes brimming with longing. The Lila River's steps came to a halt. Her eyes sized him up from head to toe. Owen Fu's heart couldn't help but follow her gaze, becoming tense. He held his breath subconsciously. However, Lila Jiang's eyes were very calm. She suddenly spoke up. "Do you still remember why I brought up divorce for the second time?" Owen Fu recalled for a moment, his face turning pale inch by inch. Lila Jiang said slowly, "After the first prank by Lin Maisie, you fired her on the spot and asked for my forgiveness. But later when I went to the company and saw her working there, I realized that you were lying to me. Moreover, on your office chair I found her lace underpants. I brought up divorce with you and went home in a huff. You rushed to my building that very night and explained to me that it was because you learned that Lin Maisie had a pitiful background and that she had sworn she would never do this again, that you felt soft-hearted for a moment. You stood there the whole night. The next day you had a high fever of 40 degrees. My parents advised you to go back first, but you refused to leave. You insisted on waiting for my forgiveness before you passed out and were sent to the hospital." Lila Jiang gave a wry smile. "In fact, I knew it back then. Maybe the first time you didn't know, but what about the second time? How else can I deceive myself? Once there is a second time, there will be a third, countless times. I know everything, but I just can't let go. I just think you'll realize your mistake and you won't be like this next time. I can't bear to let go. I feel so sorry for you. Seeing you with a fever and unconscious, I wish I were the one lying on the ground." Owen Fu's eyes were bloodshot and he said in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry. Roro, I'm sorry." Lila Jiang smiled. "It doesn't matter because that was also my own choice. Just like now. Standing here in the rain all night is also your choice. Owen Fu, I'm very glad. Your self-torture is of no use to me anymore." Owen Fu's eyes widened in astonishment, and in an instant he was overwhelmed by a deluge of pain. Lila Jiang pulled Xie Zhoubai's sleeve and then left with him. Ruruo. Owen Fu watched her back and hurriedly wanted to catch up with her. However, he had been injured before and had not fully recovered, so he hurriedly searched for the Lila River all over the world. "My body was depleted and I was caught in the rain all night long." The moment he moved, he felt as if the world was spinning around him. Owen Fu fell to the ground with a thud and lost consciousness immediately. Lila Jiang stopped walking forward and turned to look at Owen Fu, who was lying on the ground. She sighed and said to Xie Zhoubai, "Can you find someone to take him to the hospital?" Xie Zhoubai made a direct phone call, instructed his bodyguards and then left directly with Lila Jiang. The car passed by Owen Fu, who had fallen to the ground. Lila Jiang's gaze calmly swept over him, no longer showing the slightest trace of the former heartache. Owen Fu was soon sent to the hospital. However, after he was sent to the hospital, he had a persistent high fever that wouldn't subside and turned into pneumonia. He was in critical condition several times. After being rescued several times and even staying in the ICU for several days, I was finally able to be transferred to a regular ward. Owen Fu has been in a daze, having countless dreams every day. Sometimes when I dream of the wonderful times when he and Lila Jiang were children, even in the dream he would laugh happily out loud. Sometimes he would also dream that he had made Lila Jiang sad again and again. he shouted desperately, trying to drive Lin Maisie away at the first moment. He frantically tried to stop the self in his dream, reminding him that his current actions would make him regret for the rest of his life. But there was nothing that could be done. He could only watch as Lila Zhang's gaze towards him grew colder and more desperate. The love in those eyes gradually vanished, and in the end, only coldness and hatred remained. Finally, Lila Zhang smiled and said, "Owen Fu, I'm very glad. Your self-torture is of no use to me anymore." Her smiling and relieved look turned out to be a sharp sword piercing through his heart. Owen Fu woke up from his dream with tears in his eyes. The nurse was changing his dressing. Seeing him wake up, she heaved a sigh of relief and said, "You're finally awake. If the fire keeps burning, they will be worried that he will be burned into a fool." Owen Fu, looking at the empty ward and with the last shred of hope, asked, "Has anyone come to see me?" The nurse looked at him sympathetically. "A bodyguard brought you here, paid your hospitalization fees and then left." "No one came during this period." Owen Fu lowered his eyes dejectedly. "I see. Thank you." He stayed in the hospital for another 2 days before being discharged. Owen Fu once again came outside the villa where Lila Jiang and Xie Zhoubai lived. Inside the room, Lila Jiang seemed to be chatting with Xie Zhoubai. The two of them chatted about something and Lila Jiang was amused and couldn't stop laughing. Her laughter reached his ears through the door panel. Owen Fu subconsciously curled his lips, but tasted a hint of bitterness. She hadn't smiled at him sincerely for a long time. Owen Fu didn't go forward to disturb him anymore. Instead, he hid in the dark and secretly observed Lila Jiang's life. For a full half-month, he was like a mouse that couldn't bear the light, peeping into her happiness with others every day. He could tell that Lila Jiang had been having a great time these days. She became obsessed with photography and would take pictures everywhere with her camera every day. Her photography skills were improving every day. She has also developed a fondness for cooking. Occasionally, she goes to the supermarket to buy vegetables and study some new recipes. However, she had never had much talent for cooking. Owen Fu, standing outside the door, could occasionally smell the burnt smell. The next moment, he would hear her scream in pain. Another failure. She also fell in love with playing chess. Although this community is located abroad, many of its residents are Chinese. Quite a few people would get together to play chess. Occasionally, Lila Jiang would take a walk in the villa area, stroll over and play a few games. She is not very skilled at playing chess, but she is very popular among the elderly here. Everyone likes to tease her. Owen Fu knew that all these changes in her were brought about by Xie Zhoubai. Xie Zhoubai would take photos with her, cook with her and play chess with her. He silently accompanied and occupied the place beside and in Lila Jiang's heart. And he who once stood beside the Lila River, could only watch from afar, feeling jealous and helpless. He knew that there was no place for him by Lila River's side anymore. It was not until this day that Lila Jiang celebrated her birthday. Owen Fu spent over 10 days making a bracelet for Lila Jiang. Taking advantage of Lila Jiang and Xie Zhoubai leaving the door, he sneaked into the villa quietly and placed the bracelet on her table. After putting the things away, Owen Fu left in a hurry. He was afraid that Lila Jiang would see him and it would affect his mood. He had just stepped out of the door and was about to drive away when he saw a car pass by his side. Owen Fu subconsciously took a look and saw a woman sitting in the back seat of that car, wearing a baseball cap that covered most of her face. It was just a fleeting glance, but Owen Fu felt that the person looked strangely familiar. He couldn't help looking at the car that was moving further and further away through the rearview mirror. He drove forward subconsciously, but the further he went, the more uneasy he became in his heart. This unusual feeling reminded him of the day when Lila Jiang left his side, and he was also so restless. Owen Fu could no longer sit still and immediately drove to the villa where Lila Jiang and Xie Zhoubai lived. The car had just reached the entrance of the villa when Lila Jiang and Xie Zhoubai happened to come back together. Xie Zhoubai was still carrying a small cake in his hand. The two were chatting and laughing, just about to open the door and enter the house. Owen Fu didn't notice anything unusual. But the moment he saw Lila Jiang, he rushed out subconsciously, "Ruruo." Lila Jiang stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at him. There was no surprise in her eyes. Owen Fu's tracking skills are not outstanding. She noticed it long ago. She just knew that he wouldn't hurt her, so she didn't care whether he was following her or not. She just pretended not to know. This was the first time Owen Fu had appeared since he was sent to the hospital with a fever nearly a month ago. Lila Jiang looked at him calmly and asked, "What's the matter?" Owen Fu looked into her calm eyes, a bitter taste spreading in his heart. He clenched his fists, suppressing the pain in his heart, and forced a smile with all his might. "Happy birthday." Lila Jiang smiled calmly and said, "Thank you." That smile didn't reach the eyes, just like a polite word from a stranger. Owen Fu looked at her appearance and was so sad that he could hardly breathe. His eyes became moist almost in an instant. Owen Fu turned sideways somewhat embarrassedly and dared not look at her again. Just as I turned my face sideways, I saw a figure suddenly walk out from the side of the villa. It's that woman in the car. Dressed in a gray-black outfit, wearing a hat and a mask. Owen Fu still recognized it at a glance. It was Lin Maisie. Owen Fu's heart was pounding wildly. The next moment he saw Lin Maisie take out a gun from her pocket and then prepare Lila Jiang. Through the mask, Owen Fu could almost tell the ferocity on her face. "Go to hell." Owen Fu's expression changed dramatically. He immediately rushed over and stood in front of Lila Jiang. Xie Zhoubai also immediately held Lila Jiang in his arms and protected her with his body. Bang! The sound of gunfire came instantly. Lila Jiang was stiff all over and wanted to turn back, but was tightly protected in Xie Zhoubai's arms. Immediately after, there were several consecutive gunshots and the woman's agonized cries. It was not until Xie Zhoubai's bodyguard spoke up. "Sir, it's settled." Xie Zhoubai finally let go of the Lila River. Lila Jiang turned around and saw that not far away, Lin Maisie's hat and mask had fallen to the ground. She collapsed on the ground, staring at her position with her eyes wide open. Beside her, Owen Fu was kneeling on the ground. He was standing right in front of the Lila River. At this moment, a blood hole was gushing from his chest. Lila Jiang looked at the wounds on his body in terror, and tears rolled down her face immediately. Owen Fu looked at her. As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, blood gushed out. Lila Jiang trembled all over and tightly held his hand back. "Stop talking. Go to the hospital. Go to the hospital right now." Xie Zhoubai also reacted immediately and together with Lila Jiang, sent Owen Fu to the hospital. Lila Jiang held his hand tightly all the time. Owen Fu's body was shaking uncontrollably because of excessive blood loss. His face was deathly pale and his consciousness gradually became hazy. The hand that was holding her tightly was very forceful. Unconsciously he kept repeating 3 words in his mouth. "Sorry." Lila Jiang said with tears in her eyes. "Enough, Owen Fu. I forgive you. Hold on. Don't die." Owen Fu's lips trembled as he tried his best to hold them back, but tears still streamed down his face. He still held her hand tightly until she was taken to the door of the operating room. Lila Jiang whispered, "I'll wait for you outside. You must come back to life." Only then did Owen Fu let go of her hand and was sent into the operating room. Lila Jiang lowered her eyes, looking at the blood of Owen Fu on her body, trembling all over. Xie Zhoubai, who was standing by, saw her pale face and raised his hand to hold her in his arms. Lila Jiang couldn't hold back her tears, hugged him tightly and burst into tears. Scared. She's scared. She had thought of hating Owen for the rest of her life, but she had never thought of making him die for her. Xie Zhoubai's gentle voice rang out, giving her an endless sense of security. "Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to him." Lila Jiang looked up at him. Xie Zhoubai reached out his hand and gently wiped the tears off her cheek. He said softly, "If he died for you, you probably won't be able to let him go for the rest of your life. I won't give him this chance." Xie Zhoubai immediately mobilized the most authoritative doctors from various departments and rushed to the hospital. Owen Fu was critically ill several times but was saved several times. The operation lasted for 8 hours before Owen Fu was completely out of danger. Lila Jiang heaved a complete sigh of relief and fainted the next moment. When she woke up again, she learned that Owen Fu was also awake. Lila Jiang went directly to Owen Fu's ward. The 2 eyes met with tears glistening in their eyes. Lila Jiang took care of Owen Fu in the hospital herself for a full half a month. It was not until the day he was discharged from the hospital that Lila Jiang handed him an air ticket. Owen Fu's eyes welled up with tears the moment he saw that air ticket. Even though he knew there was no chance, he still couldn't give up. His voice quivered slightly. "Give me one more chance, forgive me again." The last time, okay? Lila Jiang looked at him calmly. Owen Fu, throughout one's life, there may be many instances of distraction in many matters. But in marriage, emotionally, such mistakes must never be tolerated. Because just one such moment will completely shatter mutual trust. Even if you pretend to be nonchalant, it's of no use. Such dull pain will, for the rest of their lives, turn into boomerangs shot at each other countless times, making each other unrecognizable. We can never go back. I've let it go. You should let it go too. Having said that, she waved at him and then walked briskly towards Xie Zhoubai, who was waiting for him not far away. Xie Zhoubai nodded slightly at him, then took Lila Jiang's hand and left together. Owen Fu Dingding watched the figures of Lila Jiang and Xie Zhoubai walking side by side, gradually fading away. Finally, I understand the taste of the 4 words heart-wrenching pain. End of text.